Meet Cresso, your next generation smart wallet for the Web3 landscape. It's seedless, gasless, and fearless, powered by the latest technology, making your crypto journey easier and safer. Go and check them out, Cresso.io.
Join us as we disrupt the global real estate industry, revolutionizing the future of property investment and ownership.
From meme to utility, Floki has it all. NFT metaverse game called Valhalla. Floki University, DeFi, charity, and shopping. Floki is governed by the people, for the people. Floki, together, there is no stopping us.
Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday, which is UTC. Great to see everybody on the live stream. Loads of people on here. We've got a few hundred people, which is fantastic to see. A big shout out to everybody. Simon in with the win first this morning. Love to see that. Smashing it out of the park. Hans, dear friend of the channel and of mine. Great to see you. Nit as well. Manto, welcome. BTC to 60k soon. Let's wait and see. You know, what's what we're going to do today. We're going to zoom out a little bit, guys, and get ourselves a little bit of perspective on these charts. Okay, a lot of selling pressure going on with BTC yesterday. You know, with a lot being taken off. I think $1 billion or something was taken off at one point of the exchange. So going to be interesting to look at. I let the fundamental legends in our team kind of take care of that. We're going to look at the charts and the price action. A few more good mornings. Nit, my good friend. Great to see you on here as well. Craigie boy, Gio, obviously, Tammy too. And a big shout out to everybody else. So, you know, the good thing about this is when you learn to trade the markets both ways, which is what the real kind of art of price action is, especially if we combine that in with fundamental analysis as well and look at what the hot narratives are, it allows us to take very clean trade setups. For example, AVAX this morning, right? What we want to do when we go onto the charts is we want to find our high time frame narrative. We want to then back that up with an area that we can target for a trade. Okay, and then within that area, so just to run that past as an example, we have clear liquidity resting down here from yesterday, which was yesterday's low. Okay, so what we go on here and we label this up as our PDL, which is our prior day low. This provides a really nice liquidity target for price. Okay, so what we're looking at here is we're saying, okay, well, if price does run, it gives us an excuse or an opportunity to go short. Then what do we need to look for? So we typically want to look for weakness in the market, first of all. In this case, our trigger here was this. Okay, the idea was price is drawing back into this nice big bearish fair value gap here. We've seen an initial rejection. We've had an inverse fair value gap here, but this is the clear and obvious one here in the middle. We're just looking for that close below, which is telling us that an area that would normally provide support for price, yeah, has now shown weakness. So we see this as price rejecting that, meaning that the assumption is that price is seeking liquidity lower before it makes its next decision. Now, when price gets down to here, we don't know if price is going to reverse and go higher or ultimately go lower. So what we do is we have a set of parameters. And what I'm interested in is this area here, right? Chasing down these lows. And we can do that by just going onto a lower time frame chart, you know, sweep of a high, break of a low, momentum through that low, okay? And ultimately, it's then about having conviction in our target lower down. So what we want to do is kind of break down this kind of same principle across some of the altcoin charts today, and also look at some of the higher time frames, because look, if we just zoom out, right, and you have to forgive a lot of the lines and bits and pieces from where I've been teaching, which are on the chart, but we can see ultimately here, on a daily scale, for me, price was showing weakness when we did this, right? So yesterday, when we closed below this fair value gap here, which had supported support again, but you can see in here how price is starting to really dig into this here. But you've got those nice long downside wicks showing absorption, showing that buyers have stepped in. Ultimately, it's still quite tricky to have that bearish bias here, which is why we need to be nimble on the lower time frames to get it, because price is ultimately still just delivering from this fair value gap, right? So this would be our fair value gap daily. Now, depending on the time frame of trader that you are, if I was looking at this and the daily was setting my high time frame bias, so I'd be looking to do something, say a daily for my high time frame bias, an hourly to frame my trades, and a 5 minute to execute. What I'd be looking for here is I'd be saying, while we hold this area as support, there's still every chance that price goes back up. What else do I want to be aware of? Well, I want to be aware of where we are in the move, right? So I'm taking this move here, which is this swing low, up to this swing higher. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my Fibonacci on that. And what we can see here is we've got the golden pocket, between the 0.618 and 0.66 and the 705 level. This is the kind of cluster level that I will look at for price to really receive a reaction. Now, the fact that we've got a bullish daily fair value gap here as well gives me a lot of encouragement that we might be able to see some kind of reaction and bounce here. Now, does that mean that I'm just going to place a limit order there? Absolutely not. What I'm going to do is move down the time frames to find an area that's going to be of interest that price could react. The other thing that we look at here, and I'll just change this fib for a second so it makes it more obvious, is our premium and discount range. So for this price leg here, from the low to the high, this area favors short setups, this area favors longs, based on the simple principle of risk and reward. Okay, so the plan for me on the daily here is really super clear. Purely based on the daily, if price comes and closes below this fair value gap, then I'm targeting these lows down here. Okay. However, whilst price holds this area, I'm not saying that we're going to get more bearish price action, but if we do, we're going to ascertain that on the hourly chart. All right. But as it stands on the daily, we are delivering from a bullish fair value gap here. And as we said before, when we lay over our Fibonacci, we can see that we're in a notorious area of support as well. Okay, so it can just be a little bit of a tricky place to run. Look, you're always better shorting these moves higher up if you can, and if you get the triggers. By the time price starts to get lower down into the lower 50% of our premium and discount range, you are at a higher risk. Okay, so let's just take a little look at AVAX here. Excuse me. So what would we want to see here from AVAX, right? Let me just clear this up. We can get rid of the fib and bits and pieces. So we've got a nice opportunity to have a reaction here. So what do I want to see? I want to see some bullish intent. So that looks like this. Here's our hourly fair value gap, which is within a daily fair value gap. Now, the difference is that this is bearish. So we're going to pop this red for a moment just so that it stands out and makes sense. So if on a daily scale, I'm thinking, okay, this is where I would expect to see AVAX bounce, then I want some kind of trigger to give me that confidence. Something that tells me, okay, price is going to show some bullish price action here. And typically that's in the realm of sweeping a low, which we've done here. And then I want to see an area, this fair value gap, which should provide resistance. I want to see that broken, right? And then I want to see this area act as support. And then I've got more confidence that price is going to come up to seek liquidity above this high. So that's exactly what I'm going to be looking for today on AVAX. Now, we would finesse that by moving down to the lower time frames. And with this particular setup, this would be a 5 minute play, right? So if we look at the chart here, we had the same thing. Price interacted with our bearish fair value gap here, right? I left this red arrow on the chart this morning, right, just to share with members. Then as we draw across here, that's our previous day low. So that's our liquidity target lower down. Then we can see what we get is price runs up, takes out liquidity above this high into this order block, right? Then we've got a bullish fair value gap here. Their expectation if price is going to move higher is that's going to be held. When it doesn't, we get that momentum and that move lower. What do? We set this breaker block, right? I don't know if you guys can see that clear enough, actually. Let me just make that a bit more prominent. So the orange block here, we close below that, meaning that we can then, and let me draw this line in for you as well. On the bottom of the breaker block, we can draw in our breaker line. When price closes below, we put a limit order on there, the stop loss above the order block here, and ultimately we just hold it until price reaches our target lower down. You can also as well adjust your stop loss when you get to certain key points. You know, this little swing low for me was a bit close because it was only a 0.86R. I like it to be at least 1R before I'm moving my stops to entry. But things like that you can finesse, and they're very much up to your entry mechanism. So we're going to do this, and we're going to look at this across a load of different altcoins today. So please do let me know in the chat if there's anybody that you would like to do. Good morning, good morning. QBS is in the house. There he is. And I see our lovely Erica has come in as well. Hey, Erica, how are you doing? And Moral too. Great to see you, mate. Great to see you. Happy hump day to everyone. Love that. Loretto Jr., great to have you live as well, mate. I know you've been trying a lot to get on here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, guys, let us know some ideas. I'm just looking back through the chat at the moment because I know, I think, who was it? I think it was Simon. XAI. Sure. Do you know what? Let's just dive straight in, right? Yeah. XAI USDT. See if we've got ourselves a perpetual contract, which we do with our partners Bybit. Right. Okay. So let's see. XAI USDT. Let's see if we've got anyone's got a little bit more. Let's take a look on Binance. No, everyone's pretty much got, so relatively new coin, obviously, as well. So we can see that there's some history on that. Yeah, we can absolutely take a look. Mohit are at Metis. Let me just make a note of that as well. And then let me just scroll through the comments in case you got a few more. ZEPH. Okay, yeah, cool. Damien. So, excuse me, ZEPH as well. Nice. Okay, Loretto. Yeah, JASMY. Or JASMY, sorry. So many coins, aren't they? Hey, Sebster. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Metis has Vitalik's mum in the team right now. Okay, that's a really interesting one. We'll definitely take a look at that. So let's start on our daily. If we got a bit more price history, we can always, zoom out to a weekly as well. But it's important to understand where we are in terms of liquidity, right? So I'm going to draw this line across here for a reason that we're going to come back to in a moment. And then we're going to also look at this down here. Pahadi, of course, mate. Yeah, no problem. Let's have a look. Arb's been a good friend to us, excuse me, this year. Apologies, guys, for the cough and all the nonsense. Just recovering from a bit of a nasty flu. But the honey and lemon is in hand and we're ready to rock. So first thing I just want to say is when you see a level like this, a key liquidity level, you want to see how price moves above it or below it, all right? So as price pops up here, we can see that we get a strong close above this level. What I mean by strong close is a higher body close, right? You want to see a lot of body within the candle, right? Now, the legend SC himself taught me this, and I still think it's one of the best things he's said amongst millions of amazing things that he teaches. Small body candles lead to big body candles, meaning our consolidations lead to our expansions, all right? Okay, however you look at that. So when we look at the body of the candle, the wicks are telling us where price has tried to get to. Yeah, so price tried to get all the way up here, but there was enough sell pressure to push it back to here. However, we've got a nice big body that's closed above this level. So while we get that, we want to hold some bullish intent here. Our expectation is for the next day to open up, draw back, find support at this level, and then look for long setups. So while this holds, however, if price does close back below this level, we can see that as weakness, and that gives us the opportunity to target gaps and swing lows lower down where liquidity is resting. Excuse me. Now, we're going to move to a 4-hour chart. Miguel, hello, mate. Great to see you. So anybody else in the thing? Pahadi, yeah, you're very welcome, mate. Very, very welcome. And Damien, so I probably started taking it really serious probably around about 2016. But I was involved in the markets before that as well, but more on a kind of traditional landscape. Crypto kind of reinvigorated things for me and made me change my career. Chris, unfortunately, mate, it's not Burb today. He is traveling. This is BC Richfield, so I'm one of the team over at the Burb Nest as well, one of the trading team. So I've got these on at the moment, right? These are our session breaks. You can pop these on. Oh, yes, sorry, I missed that, Nid. Yeah, Nid, I bet you are keen. I saw that you'd aped into a position earlier, so let's have a look at NVDA as well. So while we're here, on the 4-hour, we're looking for strength, we're looking for weakness, right? So the one thing that's concerning me a little bit at the moment is the fact that this fair value gap here, which is a bullish fair value gap, which would be green, has failed to support price here, okay? Now, if we look back again, yeah, and we go back to here, we can see the bullish fair value gap that we had here supported price beautifully, right? See how price comes into this area, holds this area. Ultimately, where's it then moving up to? Well, it's moving up to find external liquidity, which is in the form of these beautiful equal highs, all right? So you'll see these labeled up as EH. They don't have to be perfect, okay? But whenever you see relative equal highs here, yeah, then you know that they're going to be a really, really good liquidity target. So for example, when we were back here, and let's have a look, when these weren't, excuse me, they weren't perfect by any means. What you would want from equal highs is you don't really typically want this second one to have run price. You'd like the high to be a little bit higher, like either dead flat like these or allowing for more liquidity. But ultimately what happens is price delivers from our gap here, all right, and then it's looking for liquidity higher. Think about it as buying and selling, right, in its most simple concept. If that is high value down here, if someone's trying to sell you a Rolex watch, yeah, and they're saying you can have it for $500 down here, there's no doubt that that's value. So the buyers are going to gobble that up. And you can see within this that there's more than enough buyers happy to have this. However, up here, at say $5,000, people are like, oh, do you know what? I can get a really good price for that watch. But you know that there's buyers up here. And how do you know that there's buyers? Because there's stop losses. Those stop losses that exist above there turn into market orders, which means that you can almost always pair your orders above them, meaning you can sell back to the market to willing buyers at a higher price. All right. Now, as we can see here, this area that we expected to hold hasn't. Price has closed below this. So this is making me a little bit bearish on this asset at the moment. Now, I'm just going to mark out the clean low that we've got below here, right? And the fact that this is what's known as an intermediate term low. Okay, so these concepts are from ICT's teachings. I was very fortunate to be part of his original mentorship many years ago. I've also learned a lot from people like Trader SC over the years. But concepts like this have always made sense to me because you've got a low that sat within a fair value gap. Right now, look what happened when we ran the previous intermediate term low, which was this, right? So before this low was created here, we had this low. Price then ran into here. Look at the reaction. Yeah, these provide great liquidity pools. So that's what we want to be aware of, and that's areas that we can target. So let's move that onto here now because that one has been run, and now our liquidity is resting in here, and that's in the form of our intermediate term low. So that's, for me, on a 4-hour scale, is a really, really clean target. Now, you can always get to a point, especially when you're looking at cryptocurrency, that these things can obviously be a little bit illiquid, meaning that you don't necessarily respect these fully. So now what we're saying to ourselves is, okay, if we go to a lower time frame, right, what would give us confidence that price is ready to move down here? Yeah, we can see that price is starting to claw its way back up into here, which is fine. So what we want to do is we want to put the same principles in place here. Now, we've got this bearish 15-minute fair value gap here. Look, rejection, rejection, price currently probing into this. Now, even though I'm looking at this and being kind of, okay, my high time frame is bearish, well, I don't know how far price is going to run back up because, look, if we just take this leg down, right, or if we take the expansion leg down, because lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, meaning from that high to that low is all one leg down. So if I take this, right, I look at it in this respect, and let's just do it in terms of our premium and discount. Except let me just turn that around for a second because there we go, right? So while we're down here, it doesn't mean that we have to favor longs just because we're down in this side. But if we do close above this, then for me, price has to go somewhere to find liquidity, right? Very rarely will just kind of reverse in the middle of nowhere, right? Look, even here, what happens? Price comes up where? Into a fair value gap. What does it then do? Sweeps a high to induce liquidity. What happens from there? Leaves this gap. What happens? These wicks come up to fill this gap. Ultimately, price is then just working its way down and grinding its way down, right? So for me, it's never about price being random. Okay, price has always got some kind of destination. Doesn't have to reach there, but we overlay these principles so that we execute these things with consistency, time and time again, right? We overlay the same principles. So whilst price is here, we can see that it's delivering currently, yeah, from this bearish fair value gap. And we also have this little one above it as well. So the only point in which I would flip bullish here, I would just be looking for short trades here. I'll be waiting around about an hour and 10 minutes from here. We'll be going live with the Trade Club at the Bird Nest, right? And we do live trading sessions over there, and we do that in line with the New York AM session. Now, you don't have to apply those principles, right? But for me, if price gets above here, right, I'm going to do this green just to show that it's bullish, right? Price gets above here, then I have two ready-made targets for me, right? I have this high, and then I have this high above. So I can move to a lower time frame, say a 1 or a 2 or 3 minute chart, find a reversal pattern, right? Normally it will be something like this. You want to see a low taken. You want to see the high that sweeps the low. Yeah, closed above. Then you want to see a pullback and then price ultimately move higher. Now, within this, you can look for fair value gaps. That would obviously be bullish. So you can see the break. Why is this important? Because you've had inducement, meaning that you've swept a low. Then what you've done is you've shifted market structure, showing that liquidity has been taken and now there's bullish intent, that buyers have stepped into the market, right? Like we saw here. This is a really, really great example because price pushed up into these equal highs. Remember that we highlighted them on the higher time frame? Price pushed up into those here, taking liquidity. Ultimately, then price was just sweeping liquidity here, and then look at this move down, right? Look at that move down, the displacement in that move, right? It means that we can then go in here, target these gaps to look for short setups for price to go lower. And we're basing all of that on the principle of momentum as well. You see this move lower, you see how it shifts structure, kind of shows you, gives you an indication that the sellers have stepped in. Same way that when we did similar here, although we didn't get a sweep down here, which would have been a lot nicer, right? We did inverse this fair value gap here. And then when we broke structure, look how aggressive that move up was. It then gave you the opportunity to target this fair value gap for a long setup, which we found in here. And then you've got ready-made liquidity above these highs higher up. Okay, quite often, if you apply the right triple screen system to price will give you really good indications of what it's doing. So within here, all we're saying is we're going to be looking for either rejection and price to move further down, or if we close above these, on a 15-minute scale, according to this system, then we could look for long setups for price to push higher. And that would be in the form of something like this. All right. So the lowdown on XAI at the moment, and I'll rip through the other ones a bit quicker, guys, just to give an overview for people who maybe don't understand the trading system. And not the trading system, but my trading system. For me, close above here, then I think we push higher. After that, I'm not so sure. Okay, we need to wait and see what price action does. Ultimately, while we hold below this, my expectation is for price to continue to push lower down. Right, so let's have a look what we've got. XAI, we said we'd take a look at METIS next, didn't we? Gordon W, greetings from Bedford, England. Hello, my friend. The place of the old school magnificent vans. We show my age off a little bit there. Right, so let's have a look. Also, Hans, thank you very much. Yeah, guys, if you are enjoying the content, do please smash the like button. It really does help. But at the same time, don't feel compelled. Also, do let us know if you enjoy the show, if there's things that you think could be improved. Simon, you're very welcome, mate. Hope it was of some help anyway, not just too much drivel. Right, so this presents a little bit more of a challenge here. So see how clustered this price action is, right? And we can see here we had a very small gap that was violated. Price has now come back down below it. What we want to do is just find something nice and clean, like this gap, right? So what's happened here? Price has expanded higher, right? We've done a couple of things here. So we've inversed this, or inverted this bearish fair value gap. See how when price closed above this, see how when that didn't offer rejection, which was our original thought, bearish fair value gap, price delivery into it, probably going to reject price, but it didn't, right? This closed above, and again, look at the body on the candle, right? There's a lot of momentum, a lot of energy. We have these relative equal highs above, yeah? So this is a better example of equal highs, right? Where they don't have to be equal, but you don't really want to see this one run that liquidity. Otherwise, it's just really that high. But as they sit, they're relatively equal, and they provide really, really good liquidity targets. So as price closes above here, it allows us to step in the charts and have all these bullish opportunities to run liquidity up here. Now, if we look at that as a key high, yeah, we can see that we get a little bit of a close above it. Price pushes back, price comes back down again, a nose above, nose above. We see these kind of longer wicks start to form at the top, showing weakness. When we have that larger close below, that engulfing candle showing us weakness again, then we can immediately target this low here. all right, which happens on the following day. Now, while it doesn't look like there's much to trade in here from a day trading perspective or a short-term swing perspective, you're getting a lot of value in those trades from a percentage point of view. So where does that leave us? Well, price is currently consolidating, right? We've taken out the liquidity higher. If price wants to move higher, we have to ask ourselves, what's the draw on liquidity? And the draw on liquidity is this fair value gap here, right? So I'm just going to mark this up as our fair value gap daily. Now, the other thing that's going to be a draw on liquidity here are going to be these internal highs, okay? So not intermediate term highs because they're not within fair value gaps, but they provide our liquidity targets, all right, on a daily. Quick question here from Craigie Boy. BC, Bitcoin on the 1 day has just bounced off the tops of relative equal highs, tops of the 12th day of the Fed. Would you consider this as a potential reversal point? Well, do you know what? Let's jump on that very quickly afterwards and take a look, mate. So where we are here, there's nothing actually that clean, right? We're holding this level. As long as we continue to hold here, yeah, if we get a close below this, right, on a daily scale, right, then I'm absolutely putting my bias and moving towards targeting shorts towards this low. Okay, just really, really, really as simple as that. You know, we've got this low below it here as well. I think no, that's been run. So it's this low, right? So close below, we're targeting this. While we hold this area and we're drawing into this, this is a very, very risky place to go short. Okay, so let's move to the hourly. Right, if we're doing this more based on kind of like a triple screen system of a daily, an hourly, and a 5 minute. Now, if we expect a reaction here, we have a very, very skinny fair value gap here, right, on our hourly. You know, not the best confluence in the world, but still not terrible. What have we done? We've run this low. Yeah, so we've induced liquidity. Price was delivering from this bullish fair value gap, but we have closed below it. Again, price action being a little bit muddy at the moment, a little bit unclean, because this now becomes an inverse fair value gap where we expect resistance. So ultimately, while we're held in here and we're in a bearish state of delivery, this low becomes the key target for me. Yeah. If price does, as we discussed before, closes above and violates this fair value gap above, then and only then would I consider counter trend trading this up to this high. Why? Because that's where I see the next most realistic set of liquidity residing, okay? So as we look at this here, we say to ourselves, okay, well, as we're moving in towards this, if we are going to reject here, where are we likely going to reject from? And this is obviously on the 5 minute. Well, we've got this bearish fair value gap here, right? Price is currently within this. Now, if we were to start to see price break down, we could look for the pattern that we just discussed earlier, yeah? And what you would ideally want to see is price push up a little bit, maybe run this higher here, run back down below this low, find resistance in this area, and then we can target that, followed by the low that we've highlighted on the lower time frame. However, if price is going to show bullish action here, we still need to zoom out and respect the fact that we want an hourly close above this. So we've got about 29 minutes. You know, if this hourly closes back above, the other thing I'd really like about that is how quickly prices move to reclaim that level. Okay. Excuse me. When you want to see these reactions, quite often you want to see these things happen quite quickly. Yeah. Like this. Look at the V shape on these recoveries, right? If you're really digging into an area that has a lot of buyers present or a lot of sellers present, and typically you want to see these fast, aggressive reactions. Okay. So that's where I am at the moment on METIS. So obviously we have to, on this time frame, we have to retain a bullish bias, a bearish bias, right? Because price is still in a downtrend here. You can see if we just take our line across here, we've had a couple of kind of deviations of this because look, resistance, 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 deviation, price gets back in, ultimately sells off lower down, deviated it, tried to get back above it again. And if we look at that in lines of this, if we do get that close above both of these, then when price deviated last time, it did so by taking out the liquidity of the price swing higher. So this didn't, but it did take out this interim and intermediate term high here. So if we get this close above, gives us the confidence that price is at least going to seek some liquidity before it reverses. Either that or we're in at the very early stage of a move, which is a really, really positive thing. So let's just take a look at Bitcoin very quickly. And see what our friend Craigie boy has picked up here. So Bitcoin on the 1 day has just bounced off the tops of relative equal highs, tops of the 12th and 13th of February. So let's have a look here. January on the daily. Okay. So you're looking at these, are you? Right. Yeah. So, okay. So they are equal highs. Now, you're absolutely right there. And what you can see here, right, that's the level that you're discussing, right? Price has had that really strong close above, come back down. It's found support within here, which is where it's currently still finding support within the bullish fair value gap. Oh, do that in green. So now we can see price holding here. Ultimately, we've got liquidity targets resting above here. And really below this on a daily scale, you know, the next real target that we're looking at is this. So one of the things with equal highs and that, right, that will be equal highs when you push them down onto a lower time frame as well, right? So, for example, if we now go down to, say, an hourly, you can see that those equal highs are made up of these two highs here, right? So that's the day of Monday the 12th and then Tuesday the 13th. Now, once again, when price runs these levels, we're interested to see how it reacts. Yeah. So we want to break this down onto the lowest time frame that we can so that we get that kind of confluence. Because now when we see this candle close through them, then we can see that there's a really, really strong reaction, right? There's no reaction, sorry, on a bearish scale, but very strong bullish conviction. Big body candle closes above. The expectation at that point is then to look left, find liquidity targets over to the left, that could then be looking to suppress price. So if we zoom back out again to our daily, and we look left and we say, okay, well, where's price now interacting with? We can see that we've got, let's get rid of these. We've got this high here. So we can draw that in. So that's of interest. And then we're always looking for that. Now, they're not quite, but they're almost relative equal highs there as well. But we won't, I don't think, really account for those. We then have this kind of intermediate term high here. We have this kind of liquidity cluster down here. So that, for me, is a little bit more clear and obvious, the ones that's over here. So I'm going to pop a line on that as well, which we can see is at 59.2, so a little bit far ahead. Now, we want to be careful when we do this, right? We don't want to look too far left on our charts, right? And I'll tell you for why, because you can always find something, but you do want to be aware of what's over there. And here we have an untapped fair value gap. Now, these provide magnets for price, right? However, what we can see is this level here, the swing high that our untapped swing high that we've looked left, is we can just see the rejections that price is getting here, right? It's really, really struggling to get back above it. There's a lot of selling pressure stepping in and a lot of people taking profit, right? Or taking the bet on the other side of the market. Sorry, Gordon, I totally missed your thing. You're not that late at all, mate. What we want to see here is conviction, right? Like we said, looking at these kind of highs and lows, if we're looking at that, right, then what we can see here in this bullish candle is serious conviction, right? Look at the big body close above. Look at these, trying desperately to get above, but look at the size of the wicks, right, or the body closes. Price is just getting pushed back down. The longer that price continues to show that level of weakness, the more chance that we're in for a deeper correction. Now, ignore the noise and all the stuff on Twitter. Not saying there's not loads of immense traders on there. There are. But it can sometimes just serve as a little bit of a distraction. You see people turning really, really bearish now. They're saying, oh, we were always going to reject here, 53K, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But also just look at it yourself, right, with your own eyes and say to yourself, okay, well, if this is our dealing range here, right, then this is one heck of a run, isn't it? You know, historically, if you ever see these big runs, price tends to kind of pause, consolidate before moving up, or chopping around here before moving up, right? Or even flushing out, getting everybody super bearish, yeah, only to just have price come down, find support at a nice fair value gap, inverse a clear and obvious bearish fair value gap, showing strength to the upside, price closes above, where's their immediate target, intermediate term high, what happens? Strong close above it. We're within this bearish fair value gap, but we're now delivering bullish price action, meaning we favor this side of the curve, right? Now we're in bullish structure. We're looking for higher prices, higher targets. We've taken out our first liquidity target here. We know this is drawing liquidity, right? We know this is drawing price higher. If we look at that line, we close above it here. We then have another pre-made target here. We look at how price reacts here. We get a strong close above again. Price treats this as support and then pushes up further. So we've had this really big aggressive run higher. It's only natural for price to kind of cool off. We also have to factor in the traditional markets and what they're up to. And by that, I mean the equity markets, which have been taking a little bit of a tumble. If we go across and look at our NASDAQ markets on the daily, right, we can see that price is kind of working its way back down. If we get a little bit more context on this on 4 hour, yeah, we can see that price ultimately took out our targets yesterday in that low and even reached down to this low here where it did find some buyers. But once again, the same principles overlay. We're just being rejected at this bearish FEG. Okay. So while equity markets are quite weak, then the other thing that we can take a look at, and don't get too wrapped up in this, right? But it's all things we play in for confluence, especially when we're at key areas of support or resistance. If we look at the dollar index, yeah, what gave us the confidence yesterday to really start kind of piling on and looking for those shorts is when we got this bounce here, right? This was in our New York session. And you see price come into these levels and have a positive reaction. And quite often a positive reaction from the DXY is telling us that the money is running to a flight to safety, meaning that it's taking it away from risk assets. And risk assets like Bitcoin, obviously cryptocurrency are like beta risk assets, meaning that the chances are that the money's going to flood out of them as well and go into safer assets such as bonds and yields. Now, with the DXY, we read it in exactly the same way. We can see right here that price is rejecting here. And what we want for crypto is we want to see this. We want to see this rejection, and then we want to see price purging down here into this big draw, which is this bullish fair value gap and also this balanced price range, meaning that these bearish fair value gaps here, which were taken out by this bullish fair value gap, would ideally offer this whole area as support. Now, we don't know until we get down there if that's going to be the case, but we do know that that can be a draw on liquidity. So that's what we're looking for on the DXY. Should that start to take a tumble, and how would we look at this? Well, we would look at it in the same way, right? If this is the bullish fair value gap that's supporting price at the moment, and we're delivering from a higher time frame bearish fair value gap, we would love to see a close below this, because then price is almost certainly going to be looking for liquidity lower down around about these lows. If we get that, then the market's appetite for risk is a little bit higher, and the chances are that we see some progress on Bitcoin and altcoins as well. So I hope that's kind of been enlightening there. So Craig, more kind of directly to answer your question, I would very much kind of be looking for how price reacts at those equal highs or lows. Yeah. And then that way, so for example, you can see here on NASDAQ, so the equal highs that are here, right? Price comes up, and actually they're even a better set between that and that, but all the way back to here. You can see price has that strong close above it. And that, because of the body on the candle, means that we're a little bit hesitant. If we'd seen the wick come up and close back below, I'd be thinking that we're in for a rejection or at least a minor pullback. Right, okay, so we've got 20 minutes left. We covered BTC, we covered METIS, we've taken a look at that. ZEPH, I think someone asked us for, didn't they? Is that ZEPH? I don't know if I misread that. If anybody asked for that, or have I written that down wrong? ZEPH, let's have a look. So we got METIS, JASMY. Oh, ZEPH, that's why. Here we go. Okay, let's have a look at ZEPH on here for our friend Damien who asked. Let me just pop that down below. Just check the comments very quickly. Miguel, so why BNB is bullish while all the market is down? Yeah, really good. Really good question, but we can take a look at that at the end as well if you like. Now, obviously, not all altcoins, not all assets have to follow the same path. We look at Bitcoin as being the kind of daddy, really, if you like, and kind of leading the markets. But actually, when Bitcoin consolidates is when you see the money run in to the lower caps, right? Because Bitcoin gobbles up all the money. There you go, Zeta, mate. Oh, Zeta, possibly. So Bitcoin gobbles up all the money, right? It comes in, and then when that starts to consolidate, that money then runs down into more riskier assets, which are your altcoins, and they can really start to pop. So we'll take a look at that. Guys, I can see a load of suggestions popping. I will try and get us around to as many as I possibly can. So I know people have mentioned Link, VetChain. Link seems to be really popular, XRP. I have made a note of those. We'll just see how many we manage to get through. We've still got to do this. JASMY, ARB and NVDA. So let's have a quick rip. We've got 20 minutes left. Let's see what we can get through. So this on the daily chart on MEXC, let's have a look. So if I'm looking for this in terms of what's drawing this down here, my assumption would be this daily fair value gap. Just looking to see if we're delivering for anything up here. We're not particularly. We have obviously come in and taken out this higher. Now, this is a really interesting one, right? Because look, we didn't quite get to there. Then we got that strong close above. Yeah. Now, our expectation when we get that is price is going to search at least for the liquidity from the prior day, which is here. Okay. Let me just do that in red so it stands out a little bit more. Now, look at that reaction. A big sell-off, right? A really big sell-off. Then price failed to attack this high. Now, when we've closed back under this level, right, that's making me feel like price is due a slightly deeper correction. If we just take the bottom of this move to the top, we just want to reverse this again. There we go. Now, this seems like a really good target, right? In terms of our premium and discount price drawing down into this. So we can look for intraday shorts down into this area. Oh, well, you're very welcome, mate. Yago, hello, mate. So we can look for intraday shorts down into this area. We obviously want to do it with a little bit of caution. So we're going to draw this back across just so that we've always got that kind of visual reference then as we drop down to the lower time frames. So quite simply, we've got a really lovely liquidity target resting below us in the form of these relative equal lows. This low here and this low here is a little bit further away, but definitely don't want them to be equal highs. It needs to be equal lows. There we go. So if our expectation is for price to draw down into this area here, what you really want to see ideally is, and look at this massive sell-off from this wick here that we got in London. Whenever you see an abnormal wick like this, they can provide really good liquidity pools. So if our expectation here is for price to go down, what we could see is something like this, where price makes a run on this high, gets back underneath, and then gets this opportunity to trade it, first of all, to the equal lows, and then down here to our ultimate target. I think what we would want to see here is a strong close above this level. Yeah. Because we haven't really got any clear and obvious fair value gaps in here. We've got a little volume imbalance, but that's around about the same level. If we're going to see a rejection, in my opinion, we're going to see it around about here, which is 25.014. While it's currently kind of holding this level, then for me, I'd really need to see a strong close above this before I think that this is going to be moving any higher. All right, that's what I'd be looking at on ZEPH at the moment. There's no point kind of moving to the lower time frame on this right now, because I think we really need to wait for hourly confirmation. When we look at the structure of the candles, you know, it actually seems really nice and clean. It's following suit. So if we've got bearish fair value gaps like we have here, it's respecting them. What's happening? We're then getting a drop to take out liquidity lower. We're then respecting the next set of bearish fair value gaps here. So as we go down, I think what we're kind of really looking for here is saying we want to see a violation really of a bearish fair value gap. And if we want to be super bullish here, my expectation would be for us to close above that. That fair value gap has kept rejected price here, 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 and here again. Close above that, and we have ready-made liquidity targets here, 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 and here. Okay, so close above that, in my opinion, for more bullish price action. If not, I'm looking at this key area here for rejection. So that was ZEPH, JASMY. Do we have a perpetual on it? We do on Bybit, I think. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So, wow, this thing has just rocketed off, hasn't it? I think our FA team have had this on the radar for a little while, actually. So hopefully some members caught some really nice long setups on that and got stacked up their bags with it as well. Excuse me 1 second, guys. Just gonna blow my nose. Yeah, exactly, Nick. That thing has absolutely smashed. 15 minutes, Willie, no problem. I tell you what, we'll bring Link forward for the next one because we've only got ARB and NVDA. I know Nick can often be very, very patient himself. So unless you've got to run off, Nick, please do let me know. Let's rip through this. We'll smash into Link next for our friend Willie. So, okay, this was a good one, actually. Look at the reactions at your key highs and lows. What happened? Big, strong close above. Yes, we did have that come back down, but you should have just been watching this area here to hold for the breakout and play the runner, because, look, price has just been consolidating in that for a while. I think you could probably go back as far as you like, but this looks fairly clean. right? So what happened here? Rejection, rejection, price came to this area, deviation. The really key things about this, and nobody teaches this better than SZ, is you get this deviation, price goes up, under, then finds that as rejection, ultimately seeks liquidity higher to then fuel this move back up. What you see with this move here, on it's a bit of a low time frame to do it, but that really nice kind of rounded bottom that you see price accumulating, small body candles, big expansion. In all honesty, guys, all you can do here is really, really zoom out, right? And then if you go to your weekly, you've got to look for your key liquidity target. So we're looking like we're engaged with one now. Above that, we have this level here. Not really any inefficiencies in this market, okay, which is really interesting. I mean that there, our fair value gaps is a very small one here. So when we're looking at what's drawing price higher here on the weekly, it's these. This thing is really, really running. Now, it's very, very dangerous to jump into these assets when they're as hot as this. But I've always found that the best thing to do is to look on, say, an hourly or a 4-hour chart and mark out your order blocks. So when you're looking for order blocks, right, try and, the more high probability ones are bigger candles, yeah? So these ones here, for example, that's a nice order block. You'll see these in my chart on blue. I quite often do them as just a black line, but for this, look, when we close above this, we change our state of delivery, right? Now, we're not in a bearish state of delivery here, but we're consolidating. The close above this order block confirms this as an order block. It then allows us to take our bullish bias, target this, our bullish FEG, and look for price to push higher. Where to? Ultimately, in this perspective, the high of day, which is here. So when we're doing that, when we're chasing runners, you want to see these order blocks protected, because the down close candles in any move, yeah? Let me just do that back to blue. The down close candle in any move higher should be supporting price, right? So when we had these here, and you can do it, you can use the bodies, you can take it down to the bottom of the wicks. Like I always say with anything like this, I would always go to the source. I learned this from ICT. Also learned a lot from SZ in this respect as well, especially when it looks to countering these areas as support and resistance, or mitigation, areas of mitigation. But we can see here, these order blocks, when this candle closed above, it confirmed this order block. Now, this order block's what I'm most interested in. Yes, we have kind of closed above this order block here, and now this one as well. But ultimately, these are kind of within this range. So you could extend this up to here if you like. But ultimately, now we're holding this and pushing higher. We've kind of had this move off of it. If price comes back down to here again, right, or if we set a down close candle higher up, we would look for that to be retested and push up. But you want to be targeting these areas of consolidation before you then look to go long again, in my opinion anyway. Otherwise, if you jump into runners up here, you're just going to be in a mess. This was our key weekly level, right? So we can see here our price initially found a rejection. We're now getting a strong move above it. Remember, it's a weekly level, so we need to see weekly close or weekly price action of some kind above it or below it to validate that weekly level. However, we do know that this is going to be a strong level. So yeah, I mean, while we hold above that, really, really simply, this is our target. All right, that is sat at 0.014400. Okay, I would not long this now, right? Just the risk to reward for me just isn't there, right? I'd want to see it come back and kind of treat this area as some kind of support, set some kind of order block, and then on a lower time frame look to take out to that. I wouldn't really be holding many runners beyond that either. This is looking very, very overextended at the moment, right? And not to say that there's not more upside for this, right? There absolutely could and probably will be, but I just want to be a buyer at a slightly better area, okay? So we're going to smash on and go through that. We're just going to jump ahead to link for our friend Willie. Hopefully he's still around. Right, because the Link Marines had a massive resurgence here, right? We came out of this real kind of choppy consolidation, getting people caught here, there, and everywhere. Ah, brilliant. That's what we like to see, mate. Okay, perfect. Well, hopefully we can shed a little bit of light on this. So what I would say is the first thing that I'm always looking for here is, are we respecting those fair value gaps, right? Now, at the moment, on a daily basis, I can't change that to purple, because until today closes, then my hands are tied, right? I have to wait for the close. Why? Because if I'd gone and thought that in the middle of that day that price was going to be bearish and started shorting down here, what happened? Price recoiled all the way back and ultimately held this, which is a bullish sign. Now, don't get me wrong, today has turned out bearish, but it would have just been guesswork of me if I was in there. The only way I can refine this further is by going down to a 4-hour chart, right? Now, on the 4-hour chart, everything seems a little bit clearer, right, in terms of how bearish we are. So we're looking to the top of this move and asking ourselves, where was the failure here from price? So price came into here, support, 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 support. This candle here, yeah, we can see is the one that broke through, making this a fair value gap inversion. I'm going to get rid of this for a moment because that's on the daily. Now, what's my theory here? I'm then looking left. What's targeted? What's a target for price? It's either a fair value gap that is looking to rebalance, or it's liquidity resting below old lows. All right. So we had these pre-made targets down here. So the option yesterday would have been to scalp this lower, as it would have been on this day as well. We got that pullback into this area. Ultimately, we haven't violated any more any bearish fair value gaps here, so we retain our bearish bias. Price comes down, gave us really nice opportunities yesterday to short. And look, again, when it comes down, right, and you get that really strong close below a key level, which was that low and ultimately this low here as well, then what we're saying to ourselves is, okay, we want to see price, we want to see what price is going to do here. And when price has recoiled here on the 4-hour, remember I said to you about the change in state of delivery, yeah, this is the bullish order block. This bullish order block gets set when this candle closes below, meaning that at 8 o'clock this morning was the time that we would have been getting to the charts and seeing if we had any short setups available. Yeah. So where are we here? 8 o'clock. And what do we want to see? This is always a really, really good thing to keep in mind, guys. If you're looking for a short setup, yeah, look for price to push higher. Right, it sounds really counterintuitive, right? But we want to see price draw up before it then drops, okay? And it gave us some really nice opportunities. We got our sweep here, yeah? We violate and inverse this bullish fair value gap here, meaning that we could have been short from here, or we also could have been short from this fair value gap within there. Again, it's more to do with your trigger mechanism. I do teach that in all of my free material, so you can go back and have a look. If you can't find it, do reach out to me, and I'll do a video on it for you guys next week. So where we are at the moment, when we've zoomed in here, let's just go back out a little bit. Now, for me, while price is underneath here, this is the most obvious area. On a 4-hour scale, we've got 3 hours now until this candle closes. If that candle closes, as it is, and we get this as a bearish fair value gap, quite simply, if we close above this, then my interim bias is going to turn bullish, and I would expect price to make a move higher. We've got a fair value gap there, and ultimately we've got this high up here. As long as price holds below this, I have to retain a bearish bias, okay? But that isn't yet a fair value gap, not for another 3 hours. This could come and close that gap, in which case we'd then be looking at this one. So we can move in a more granular way down to our hourly, and what we can see here is we have a really nice, clean and clear FVG. So expectation when we set that here would be at 11 o'clock price to draw into this and then make a move lower. Remember, where do we target first of all? Always the swing high, yeah, or swing low. In this case, we set this swing low when this candle draws up, closes. So when we're in here, we're up here looking for short trades into this. Now we need to be a little bit patient. We've got a liquidity target resting down there. We need to be aware that we've run the prior day's low, yeah? So as we mark that up as our PDL, we can see, look, no displacement below it. Just the wicks are getting bought up here. So we want to be aware of that. However, if we start to show weakness again and draw into this and we get a low time frame short setup, then this is very much my target down here. And this is resting at 17.956. However, if we close above this on the hourly, then my expectation is for price to move higher, start making a move again on this level. Remember, this is a higher time frame order block for us, for price to drive in there. So we have to retain a bearish bias on link at the moment. I think this is the strongest level we can look at, 17.956 for a reaction. However, we've taken out the prior day's low. We could see a bit of a move higher here, but I'd want to see an hourly close above this fair value gap. All right. So hopefully that's been helpful, guys, on link. Now, ARB was another one, wasn't it? And we've had some great fun with ARB recently. It's been a really, really, really beautiful investment for us. So let's just... Willie, you're very, very welcome, mate. I hope it's been of some kind of help. So when were we last looking at ARB here, right? So just to show you, look, similar principles, right? High time frame level here, right? Fair value gap that we're looking for rejection, close above. Where's our conviction that price is moving up to this high? Oh, you're very welcome, Seb. Very welcome. It was lovely to meet you as well in person that time. So we've got this, right? We came into here. What was our expectation? Same thing that I'm telling you today. We look for our key levels, and we're talking about price finding support in these key levels. If we get the closes above, we look to move higher. If we get our rejections, we look to move lower. It's always good to have a plan to play this either way. Now, quite often on cryptocurrency, or not quite often, but most of the time, I will utilize a 4 hour as my highest time frame. Yeah, it doesn't mean that I don't care about where price is on the daily. I really care about where price is on the daily, right? We can see a fair value gap here that price is drawing into. However, I want to set myself on the 4 hour because it allows me to be a little bit more granular and trade the lower time frames. Yeah. So, for example, yesterday, what's our theory, right? Price is setting lower lows, lower high. It looks like it's moving lower. So we're looking for one of two things to happen, right? We step onto the charts yesterday. We have a bearish fair value gap here. Now, this is why we can't act before the candle closes, right? Because when the price got above this fair value gap here, people would have started rushing in and going, okay, long. And then you just can't, it's just really, really difficult here, right? Because you haven't got a close above it. You've got a swing high here that you've taken out. And then when price does close below, the idea of this is to trap a lot of people on the wrong side of the market, gobble up their liquidity to fuel and move lower down. So while we step into this, we just have to be bearish until it's broken. Yeah. The only time that we change or that we're then more cautious is when we come in and sweep key lows or key highs. We can see this, look, beautiful, clean, long wick. Price comes in, sweeps it here, right? We see the reaction we get. Price gets bullish again. Now, if you're looking for reactions around these lows, then they're areas that you want to play very quickly, very aggressively, right? So, for example, if you go down to say like a 2-minute chart, what you're looking for is a reaction when price comes into this area. So, and maybe in fact even a 5-minute chart, you'd probably be all right with this. So this is when the New York session starts. That's when I'm most interested in trading this. Again, you can look here and see that you've got your fair value gap, which gets inversed here right at the beginning of our session. We can then look to see how price moves above this. So we take out this high, we set a fair value gap in here that's bullish. So depending whether you're a 2022 model trader, whether you trade inversions, whether you're looking for, breaker line models, or whether you're looking for, say, breakers, right? Your up close candles before price sweeps liquidity and moves higher. This is where you're looking for your model to go long. And it's really, really key that you monitor the reaction when you first engage with those key levels, because these are counter trend trades because you are overall bearish. Whack, my man, that is absolutely fantastic to see you on here, mate. Izzy, hi, mate. Why are you shedding analysis with .P charts? Yes, certainly. So they're perpetual charts, meaning that they're futures charts. So for me personally, I'm an intraday trader predominantly. So I'm trading the futures charts. So I need them to accurately reflect what the futures market action is on those price assets for when I'm targeting specific highs and lows. You'll see a slight difference when you look to your spot charts. So that's the reason. What are my thoughts about the situation right now? What can we expect with Bitcoin? Well, we'll maybe close up on that in a minute. Let's just take a very quick look at ARB here and see what opportunities we have for some plays. So ARB for me is really nice and clear, actually. So we've got this, which is the draw on liquidity at the moment, is this fair value gap, which is bearish. What have we done? We've swept this low. So our theory is that once price has taken external liquidity in the form of a low or a high, the price will then draw to internal liquidity. Now, we've got this fair value gap here, which is bearish. However, if we look at the previous drop here, and it was a big, strong drop and it had everybody worried. But if we look at how it reacted, and let me just turn this around quickly because otherwise it will really annoy me. Yeah, this is the 50% marker. Price very often wants to get back up, in this case, into premium so that we can be shorters in premium. So if we're overlaying the same principle, and let's just say that price stops here, if it continues lower, we take our range down lower. And we're interested in this displacement leg, right? This current price leg. So as that's coming down here, if we get the close above here, right? And again, on the hourly, we want to see an hourly bullish close. If we get that close above, then I'm looking for price to draw up higher into this, maybe towards this high, or looking for the fair value gaps that we have in here. However, if we're looking at this in terms of staying on cue with being bearish, then we want to understand where our next kind of target is. And actually, what we've got here are two things. So we've got this very skinny bearish, bullish fair value gap here. We also have this. Now, this is our balanced price range, okay? So this was our bearish fair value gap that when we closed above, price ultimately then told us, right, this has failed. We're looking for liquidity higher within terms of this intermediate term higher, because it's a higher within a fair value gap, good liquidity pool, right? So while we hold this area is expected to be support because we've got this fair value gap through it, right? So now price is kind of in this area. On a daily scale, I'd want to see a close below this, and then my conviction is that we're going to this low. But currently we're delivering from this, right? So as we then look, like I said, on an hourly, makes sense that we could get some kind of bounce here for price to move up. At the moment, shorts are a little bit risky because we're ultimately delivering, we're ultimately quite far down in the move. However, maybe not on a 1 minute, but on say a 2 or a 3 minute, if we were going to reject here, then we want to look for the clear and obvious FVGs that can give us an indication. If we look on the 3 minute, we can see that we have one really clean and clear fair value gap here. So for me, if price comes down, violates this, yeah, so that's a close below, then my expectation is that price can only really be reaching for liquidity here, this fair value gap here, or right back down at the bottom of this move. Yeah. So at the moment, while it retains here, I can't be longing this because we're longing it into a bearish fair value gap. If we get the rejection and price on the chart tells us that, then we can scalp it back down lower. But ultimately, I think, and especially for most of you on here, you'll be looking on the higher time frames. What we want to see is an hourly close above here. And we've got 55 minutes now to achieve that. It doesn't have to be this candle, but I will tell you this right now. The quicker you see these inverted and recovered, the higher chance that price, continues on in that direction. Keep smiling. Oh, you're very welcome, May. Thank you for the mention. Very kind of you. And Izzy, thank you. That would mean you use futures. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, use features with USDT bank. Yeah, so I'm a futures trader, so more of a speculator than an investor. I do have my investment bags. I've got some really, really good investment bags. And a lot of that is thanks to the amazing fundamental analyst team that we have over at the Bird Nest. If any of you guys, by the way, if you're not members, you are interested in joining, you can sign up you can get 7-day free trial, you can get free memberships, you can just come and be part of it, you can sign up to the newsletter, get the reports, loads and loads of goodies, or you can sign up through some of our partners as well. Actually, this is a really cool thing we're doing at the moment. So we earn our members 330% return through our calls system last year. So you should be able to find the link tree down in the description, but you can actually get those calls all for free, meaning that you can copy trade them and just earn a little bit of money. But we always say this, don't ever be reliant on copy somebody else's calls. Use it as a way to generate income whilst you learn for yourself. Okay, so that's all available in the description. So really, really simple here with ARB. We get back above this on an hourly scale. I think we push up higher, at least to kind of the 50% of this area. Yeah. So close above here, pushing up. We want to find something, maybe this fair value gap here. But that's pretty straightforward for me. The longer we kind of hold below this, the more I do think that we purge a little bit lower. And then we'd be looking for a daily close below these levels to start targeting this level down here at 1.6896. Right, Nick, my dear friend, are you still with us? I know we've had a few people had to drop off. I know we've snuck back above the hour mark as well. Craigie boy, always keeping you out of work, and I'm sorry about that, mate. Brilliant to have you on here. Thanks so much. Hopefully Nick is still here because he really wants us to look at NVDA, doesn't he? Have I done that wrong, Nick? NVDA? Come on, Nick. You're going to have to correct me here. Check. There he is. What am I looking at wrong here, Nick? NVDA. Are you looking at it in terms of on the NASDAQ, so this one, correct me if I'm wrong, mate. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a, NASDAQ stock. Hey, beautiful. Okay, my friend. So let's have a little look. So that's a gappy little number, that isn't it? Pre-markets there at 682, 64. That's quite a big gap there on that. Okay. Let's go a little bit more granular, mate. Let's take a look at this. What's price currently doing? This is a little bit messy, actually, this one, isn't it? Really, really gappy. Chances are I may be on the wrong contract, or it just had really, really sporadic trade volume at the moment. What I would say, 4 hour here, we kind of violated this, right? So we've had a bit of a close below there, quite different. We're looking at the pre-market at the moment, but I do think that if we start to come back below this here, then my expectation is for price to reach down for this, which would be kind of our intermediate term low. It's within this big gap down here. That would be down at 663. Let's move to an hourly on this one, mate, and just get a little bit more granular with it, because we have this. These are really, really tricky, these ones. I would include the volume gap as well here, actually. And I would say that while price is drawing into this, I would have a very sneaky feeling that price is kind of looking to get to a point there and then maybe move lower down to there. Again, I think the only thing that we could do, and it's a real pain in the backside, is the only thing we could really do is have that, it's earnings, of course it is. Yeah, look, we've got the E down there. That's going to be really interesting. In fact, if there's any suspicion that the earnings report is going to be low on this, then yeah, I think this is what's happening now. I think this is being drawn up in here. CME gap. I think this is being drawn up into here to then potentially really blow this lower. I think you'd want to see a really good earnings report for this thing to kind of really take off. You have got some quite nice liquidity resting up here, right? If I press the right thing anyway. So I would be looking at that. But yeah, really, really difficult when we've got a gap of that kind of side. If you wanted to really aggressively trade this, and you can't even do that, because price is just drawing up into this huge gap, right? I think what you would do is kind of look for the equilibrium of this current price leg here, which is going to be this dotted line in the middle. And then you could be really, really brave. I would kind of use this FVG here as your marker on the 15-minute. As long as this holds, price could definitely push up. But I think as soon as we get below this thing is gone down to here, I think. Just that violation of that just really isn't very clean for me on the 4 hour. But it is a tricky one though, right? Because you obviously do get this quite choppy price action. Difficult to know, mate. Earnings are going to tell the story on this one, I think. How many have we got there? Earnings estimate 4.593. Okay, so you want to see something above that for bullish. Anything below, I think we draw up and then just really, really dip down. And like Hans has said down here as well, really great heads up there from Hans. Just remember, earnings only come out after the market close. So that's why you see the gaps all over the place on the charts, right? Because it's going to gap. So it's really, really treacherous. But I think you know enough about what you're doing now, Nit. I think with this one, I wouldn't be looking to be too aggressive on this. I would just be looking for this to maybe draw higher. And then if that earnings is poor, then you're going to have to be really careful at the open, because this thing could gap aggressively. But you've got a nice pre-made liquidity target down there of 663. Which is really cool. Right, guys, I've got to shoot, unfortunately. We're just about 10 minutes over schedule right now, but I hope it's been interesting for you. We managed to get through a nice amount of alts and that today as well. I'll very, very quickly, because I did promise someone that we would just take a very quick look here at Bitcoin. So look, Bitcoin right now, and I know I'm probably sounding a little bit like a broken record. Bitcoin's holding this bullish fair value gap, right? So that's why it's put on there. That's why it's marked on my chart. So as long as we hold that gap, I'm going to look at this hourly and I'm going to say, right, line in the sand, this gap here, right, which is a bearish gap, close above this on the hourly heading into our New York session, then I think we start taking down these highs. I think that's what we're hunting for, is that. and ultimately this high up here. However, I do think if we continue to see a rejection here, that this makes a really ready-made area to look for a short setup lower. It's going to be really interesting today as well, and I would really keep an eye on traditional markets as well. Nasdaq's down heavy again today. DXY is starting to pull back a little bit though, which is interesting. Again, not something we want to completely hang our hat on, but we did say earlier, right, this 47 minutes now on this candle, if this closes below, chances are it pushes a little bit lower down, and that normally means good things for equity markets. So we can see the Nasdaq in the forms of a very weak recovery at the moment, but it's kind of doing it from the middle of nowhere. So do stay vigilant on this. Obviously, price can still correct a little bit lower, but if you are feeling freaked out by it, just zoom out and make sure you've got your high time frame view of it, and that you're not panicking too much. All right, guys. Look, thank you all so much. Really great to see you on here. Great to see you back with us as well, Hans. I know you've been a super busy boy lately, but it's been great to have you back on the stream along with everybody else. Do have a fantastic day. Going to jump over straight on with Trade Club now, so do pop along and say hi if you are in the membership, and we're going to take a look at the chart setups now and see if we can find some scalps for this afternoon. Have yourselves a fantastic week. Do trade safe. Keep a little eye on the news as well. And do come and hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at BC_Richfield, or you can come and find me over with my fam at the Bird Nest. Have a fantastic day, guys.